Hello! Thanks you for visiting the Other Woman and Man Stories channel. Have you ever experienced such life stories? James and Lauren had been together for about 10 years. They started dating after both finishing their studies and almost immediately began living together. Over the years, they had been through a lot together, but some problems continued to haunt them. They had been trying to have a baby for a long time, but their endless attempts had been in vain. Perhaps age was taking its toll. Initially, they were both focused on their careers. Lauren worked in a prestigious law firm, while James was fully immersed in entrepreneurship. The constant stress and fierce competition took a toll on their health. Moreover, Lauren often overworked herself. Some cases were incredibly complex and required long hours to unravel. At some point, James realized that things couldn't continue like this. He wanted to have a normal family, but in reality, they were just a couple of workaholics living under the same roof. James began to persuade his wife that she needed to take a break and try to become a mother, because time was passing and their attempts to conceive a child had been unsuccessful for so long. Lauren agreed, but she still had doubts deep inside, unsure if she truly wanted to become a mother, especially now, when her career was rapidly advancing. Nevertheless, the couple went to see a doctor to analyze their situation and possibly receive some guidance. The doctor ordered the standard tests to identify any potential issues and then discuss pregnancy planning. When the results came in, the couple returned for a follow-up appointment. Lauren had no reproductive health problems, but James did. The doctor explained that the issue lay with James and his immobile sperm. As the specialist tried to further elaborate on the results, James sat there, deflated. He didn't want to stay in the office any longer, so he simply stood up and walked out the door. Lauren quietly apologized and followed him. She embraced her husband, but he didn't utter a word and headed towards their car in the parking lot. Silently, they returned home. When they had reached their apartment, Lauren cautiously asked if he wanted to talk. James replied that he didn't want to discuss anything and went outside, pretending to take a walk. For him, such a diagnosis had severely undermined his self-esteem. He had thought the problems were due to hormonal imbalances in his wife, but it turned out that the problem lay within himself. He became very introverted. No matter how hard Lauren tried to engage him in conversation, nothing worked. When she attempted to uplift him and reassure him that everything would be okay, he only felt even weaker and more vulnerable, leading him to avoid any contact for a long time. Lauren felt the coldness in their relationship, and during this difficult period, she decided to throw herself into work again. Her desire to come home diminished with each passing day. She would routinely stay at the office, sorting through the piled-up documents. On one of those evenings, most of the employees had already gone home, but Lauren remained in her office. Someone knocked on the door, and a few seconds later, Christopher, her colleague, whom they had worked alongside for several years, entered. He noticed that Lauren had been feeling down lately and tried to distract and cheer her up. Neither of them had ever acknowledged their feelings, but they had long felt a mutual attraction. That evening, they opened up to each other. Work took a backseat, and Lauren was able to relax, while Christopher ordered dinner from her favorite restaurant for delivery. That evening, Lauren cheated on her husband with Christopher right in her office. Weeks went by, and James gradually started reconnecting with his wife. He even informed her that he had found the strength within himself and had sought medical help for his issues. It turned out that the situation wasn't as critical as he had initially thought, and he was prescribed a treatment plan. "Not all hope is lost. We will keep trying," he said. He looked genuinely happy and inspired. In that moment, Lauren recalled the evening in her office and suddenly felt that she loved her husband and that they would have a strong family, and all that had transpired needed to be forgotten. After some time, Lauren felt something strange and consulted a doctor. After running the tests, the doctor returned to her with a wide smile. "Congratulations, Lauren, you're pregnant," he exclaimed. However, Lauren couldn't share in the joy. She was horrified. What if her husband wasn't the father of the baby? The following few days, Lauren was filled with uncertainty. She constantly pondered what to do. She couldn't bring herself to tell her husband about the pregnancy as he was unaware of her recent betrayal. But her fears didn't last long. James himself noticed the changes in his wife's behavior. She suddenly abstained from alcohol, and she began experiencing morning sickness. He bought her a pregnancy test and asked her to take it. Lauren was under immense stress and decided to come clean. She admitted that she was indeed pregnant, but wasn't sure if the child was her husband's. With tears in her eyes, she then confessed about her infidelity. In that moment, James experienced profound shock. He never expected such an act from his beloved wife, with whom he had spent so many years. He wasn't angry or furious. He was simply consumed by disappointment. Throughout all this time, he had never stopped loving his wife, and what was happening just didn't fit into his perception of the world. After the conversation, he left the house, didn't spend the night there, and didn't contact Lauren for several days. The woman felt guilty, and after this situation, she realized even more clearly that she wanted to be only with her husband. She called him numerous times, but without success. Finally, he answered and said that he would come back home this evening. It turned out that all those days he had been staying overnight at his office, pondering what to do next. "I have been contemplating this situation for a long time," he began when they finally met. "It took me time to come to terms with everything." "Please, James, forgive me," his wife pleaded. "Hold back your tears." The man cut her off. "Here's what I'll say. If the child is indeed mine, then I'm willing to forgive what you've done," he said, swallowing nervously. "But if not, then make a choice. It's either me or this child." Lauren burst into tears. They had tried so long to have a child, but now this very event, which was supposed to be joyous, cast everything into doubt. Finally, the appropriate time came for an early paternity test. The mood of both spouses that day was far from joyful. James still contemplated whether he was ready to forgive his wife, and Lauren was nervous because the future of their family hinged on the result of this test. After an agonizing week of anticipation, they finally received an email from the laboratory in Lauren's inbox. With trembling hands, she clicked on the attached file, and her heart leaped with joy. The father of the baby was indeed James. She hurried to call him and arrange a meeting. He was still at work at that time. The spouses met at their favorite park, where they often strolled together on weekends. James was already waiting for her on a bench. Lauren, unable to wait, showed him the paternity test results and looked hopefully into her husband's eyes, holding back tears of joy. However, James himself didn't appear happy in that moment. He handed his wife the printouts of the results and declared that after everything they had been through, he couldn't stay with her. He stated that he would support the baby because the child was innocent, but he could no longer be with Lauren after her betrayal. James thought he could forgive his wife's infidelity for the sake of their shared happy future, but then he realized he had been deceiving himself. Perhaps he could forgive, but he knew he could never forget, and that thought would prevent him from living peacefully. Therefore, he made the decision to divorce Lauren. At first, his wife didn't want to agree to the divorce, but upon seeing the finality of his decision, she relented. In the future, James indeed helped his child, met with them, and spent time together, but he no longer had any feelings for his ex-wife. Of course, some couples stay together for the sake of their children, even after such terrible acts. But a big question arises: is such an unhappy family really beneficial for the child? Such is life's story. Share your thoughts in the comments about this situation and the behavior of the spouses. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and be sure to like this video. It will greatly help promote the channel. Take care and have a wonderful day.